Welcome to Al Shit, where we spout Al shit. My name is Al, and I'm joined
What?
by my.
Welcome to Owl Shit, where we
Alex,
spout
that
owl
if
shit?
Moose said welcome to Moose shit, where we spout moose shit, you would call him an idiot. So what am I supposed to think of you when you do that?
Moose shit. Welcome to Al Shit, where we spout bullshit. My name is Al, and I'm joined by my cool cucks, Mose and Coob.
I'm
Don't
not a
call
cuck.
me a cuck, you cuck.
Definition of a fucking cuck, you cuck.
Okay, how are you guys doing today?
It's weird to be on this side of the thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's Al Shit today. Welcome to Al Shit, everybody.
God.
You did
Al
that
Shit,
already. You did that
Al Shit.
already. You
I'm
did that already.
explaining what Al Shit is.
I'm
Okay,
just
go
saying,
for
Al,
it.
it's not as easy as it looks to do the intros and stuff, huh? Now is it?
Yeah, well, I also didn't have 20 times to do it and still mess up and stutter.
Fuck you! You said, welcome to Owl Shit, where we spout owl shit.
No, I didn't. I said bullshit.
Oh, yeah, sure. I
Mhm.
want to make this clear. You can't cut this shit out. When we started, he legitimately said, welcome to Owl Shit, where we spout owl shit.
All right.
Not your best work.
So, an Al shit is basically I'm going to be ranting about something that I found interesting. And we're going to get these guys' opinions on it. And then we're going to leave. So, corporations, as we know, typically pander to the left. And my question essentially is how much of this is their genuine beliefs and how much of it is them just trying to make a quick buck? And once you go down the rabbit hole, it actually gets more interesting. There are a few examples that I have that sort of shook the internet, and it comes from both sides of the political spectrum, but mostly the left. One, which is the most obviously annoying one, is the NFL painting during 2020 on their touch on the what's it called, the goal line, touchdown line,
The end zone.
end zone. That's what I was looking for. Big letters that say "End Racism." Another one is um, Nike has had some campaigns with Colin Kaepernick and him kneeling for the national anthem. In 2020, I used to play COD, and I remember logging into COD one day, and one of the first screens was, "We support Black Lives Matter. This is a totally unjust thing." Blah 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 blah. So, it's not that I don't think corporations should have a opinion politically, because if us as citizens have free speech, why should that be limited on politicians or corporations? Um, if we're able to make public statements on stuff, so should they. I don't think they should be keeping their opinions private. But the question is, if around half of America is left leaning and half of America is right leaning, why are so many corporations left leaning? Is that their actual genuine opinions? And my argument is that it's not. That they're just doing this because it's the popular thing to do, and that they'll probably donate to both parties anyway, and they're just putting on a show. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if the cancellation is of saying your actual beliefs is too much, or if it's a bigger threat than it ever has been. Um, but it's everyone sees that it's a dog and pony show, but there's not much we can do around it. So my question to you guys is: do you think, one, that their opinions or their dog and pony act is genuine, and if you don't think so, why is it so prevalent?
Based off of Pew Research, which is a pretty nonpartisan, established research team, about 45% of the United States lean somewhere to the left, whether it's outsider left or progressive left. 45%. Meanwhile, to the right, it's about 40% is either ambivalent right or faith and flag conservatives, all the way there. With
Mhm.
15% are just stressed sideliners, is what they call them. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, oh, 50% of the country is left, 50% of the country is right. So why do we see so much left? The left obviously is the more popular coalition compared to the right.
You mean
Not
by 5%? You mean 45 to
5%,
40?
5%, okay, 3 million, not 3 million, 300 million times 0.05.
15 million.
Yeah. So 15 million is not a insignificant amount of people.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's not like a
And
45%
also
difference.
in
Like it's not
and
45% corporations are left versus 40%, right? Like it's
in the past four elections, the left has won the popular vote decisively. It's not up to debate. The left has won decisively in the popular vote. So again,
by a very
it's
small margin, most.
sure in the last two elections you can say it's by a small margin, but you also have to take it. I'm not gonna get into it. Okay. Um, and then my thing is, where's the harm? Really, I don't see necessarily the harm
Yeah,
in
I don't think
companies.
it's harmful. I just think how much of it is genuine. Do you think all of the acts that companies have made to throughout their diversity and inclusion is genuinely because they believe it?
Not every company, because if that was true, they wouldn't just celebrate gay rights. And I think it's June. It's June, right? Where wins for like 1 month and then doesn't win for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the year. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think if it was really true, they wouldn't say, "Oh, love wins only in June and never ever in any of the other 11 out of 12 months," and nor would they say, "Oh, Black Lives Matter just in February, though," or women's rights matters just in March. Like, if it was true, then they would do it year round. Like, I don't necessarily think
Do what year round?
actually take a stance.
So
Like, I
you
think
would want corporations to take a stance 365 days in a year?
yeah, like Disney, I think like you can say what you want about Disney, but they actually took a stance, suffered the consequences, but didn't back down from their stance in regards to gay rights. Do I need to provide context with that, or do you think people understand what I'm talking about?
You might need to provide context.
Okay, so in Florida, Ron DeSantis, the Trump without any baggage, which is what some people call him, decided that the best way to teach education in Florida is to not provide any education. In that, they do not teach any type. They basically give parents rights as to what their children learn, especially in sex ed, um, and basically prohibit teachers from talking about homosexuality or in our terms involving homosexuality. Called and the bill is not necessarily called this, but it's what the popular name is the "Don't Say Gay" bill. Um, Florida passed it because it's fucking Florida, and of course they would. And Disney decided to take a stance and said, "We do not stand with what Governor Ron DeSantis is doing. We also don't stand with what the Florida legislature is doing. It is very important to understand the role of the LGBTQIA plus community in regards to normal, typical society and how they fit in." Ron DeSantis didn't like that, and so decided to be an idiot and get rid of Disney's special taxing purposes district. So they basically get taxed at the same level the rest of the state does, which before they used to get taxed at a lower rate. But that's because they mostly handle all of their own stuff, like it's their own police and all their own utilities and stuff like that. So they didn't necessarily need Florida's involvement. But now they're getting taxed at the same rate. So now the talk is that that Disney is most likely going to be moving uh Disney World. Like if they said from what I understand they're looking into it at the very least. So Disney took a stance, suffer the consequences of losing their special taxing district, but they didn't say after the fact, "Oh, sorry, Mr. DeSantis, we're so sorry. We actually don't believe gay people should have rights. You were absolutely right with what you said before."
Can we go into the thing a little? I just want to say I don't know why I don't feel the need to preface this, but I will anyway. I don't have anything against gay people. I really could care less what your sexuality is.
Couldn't care less.
Oh my god, sorry.
We literally
But
talked about this last time.
I know, whatever. But like I I don't get the whole the point of the bill in general. Like I know you're saying like the parents have the right to control everything they learn, and like most of that is like they're like the whole blanket is there because of like the sex ed thing, like learning about that. But I don't know where that idea comes from that people I never was told in school that I had to be straight. So I don't know where that comes from. I just saw that from everything that I was consuming as a kid. Like every movie that I watched, every TV show, it would always be the guy trying to get the girl or the girl has a crush on a dude or whatever. And then so that might have influenced my mind, but I don't really get the whole teaching kids about sexuality to begin with. But I didn't even know about this Disney thing, honestly. I knew about the bill passing and everything, and I
I
thought that
think
was
the purpose is
stupid.
like you said that you always saw like straight couples in like cartoons or on TV, and that didn't. That's even though you saw that, that didn't teach you that you had to be straight. But I
Yeah,
think
if
it
you need
showed you that that's a thing that happens. Whereas people that are gay, they see that so they don't even know it's a thing that happens. Like they don't even know that they
no,
exist.
so the point is to basically shield the children from ever even knowing that gayness is an option. Which if
Yeah.
gayness is an option for your kid, then your kid is gay, probably. Like at the very least, they are
What?
bisexual or pansexual.
What are you
Like
talking about?
because gayness is not an option, is what I'm saying. Like if they're considering, oh, maybe I can just if they're a dude and they're saying, oh, maybe I can just date a dude, then they're bi, pan, or gay.
Okay. Well, what was your original point in saying this about Disney?
Oh yeah, Disney took a stance. They are not like so my point is that companies, if they were in the same boat as Disney and were threatened with getting taxed more if they still stood by their stance, they would probably walk their statement back saying something along the lines of, look, in these divisive times, we don't really like taking stances here, just simply due to the fact that that's not the company that we stand for. We just want everyone to be included and everyone to feel safe within our company. And so we're not going to be disagreeing with Ron DeSantis' ruling. Whatever Florida legislature decides to do with their government is up to them. That's what another company would say. That's not what Disney said. That's what
Right.
another
So
company
you're
would say.
that. So you're saying that it's okay for corporations to have political beliefs and to practice and preach them.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. But my point is, when does it become like you're pandering to
Like
it,
I
where you're
said,
doing it only for the money?
it's like I said, when they don't stand by it, when they do it just so they can make a quick buck instead of doing it because it's actually something they care about.
I
Right.
mean,
So
the Disney example, even if they don't agree with what I don't think it's about a quick cash grab because I don't think you agreeing with something is going to directly relate to you gaining money quickly. Like, I don't think that's realistic. But
Mhm.
in Disney's perspective, I think I think what you guys are more going at is sustainability rather than the quick money grab. Like, if a company wants to last longer and have a more favorable like public image, then they take these stances on things and not back. Like, Disney like genuinely believes that. That's why they kept their stance even though it was going to hurt them like monetarily. But the companies that you're referring to that like will do it for like that are pandering basically aren't really doing it for a money grab. They're more just doing it for the ability to just last in like the cancel culture
Yeah,
like
and
type
that
of
seems
idea,
like
right?
fake to me, and everyone can see that it's fake, but it's still successful. For example, the end zone end racism did nothing except spark outroar, but
Outrage.
not in a way, huh?
I mean, but that the NFL thing you have to understand though that's like that's similar to the NBA and how if you have something that's so heavily reliant on like the people in so like the NFL is clearly reliant it's not reliant on the owners, right? Like nobody knows like people know of the owners, but that's not who the stars are. The stars
Yeah.
are the players. And when the players are having a problem, because let's be honest, a lot of the players are the same demographic of people that were affected by the and racism, like who that's why they were targeting it because of like the incidents that happened during COVID, whatever, like or whatever, 2020, sorry.
Mhm.
But because that happened, that's why those people were speaking up. And then the like players saying, we're not gonna play unless you guys take a stance on it. So the reason the NFL did that stance to begin with is because of
They
their
were forced
players.
to. Yeah.
I mean, not really forced. Yeah, they were forced to, but when like the league is so driven by players, like especially the NBA, the NFL is kind of different because the owners do have a lot more power in the NFL. But in the NBA, where people's contracts are guaranteed, and the like guys that are making 250 million are gonna get it either way, and they're taking the stance and they're saying we're not gonna play, and even the bench guys are saying we're not gonna play in a league with such small amounts of like stars or such yeah, basically there's not that many stars in the NBA that are like that. They have so much power that they are the company. Like they are the NBA.
Yeah.
Like LeBron
But
James is the NBA. So when the NBA takes that stance against racism, even though you might think it's the popular thing to do at that time, it's really just because the players are the league and the players personally have a problem with those situations that are happening. They're the ones that are taking the stand.
okay, so then let me ask you this: why is it so important that corporations, like, say, for example, why is it so important that the NBA takes a stance on this when it doesn't really make any meaningful change? If you want
I can answer
meaningful
that.
change,
I can answer that. I can answer that.
okay, if you
I
want
was actually
meaningful
gonna make this.
change, you want to go to like the legislative level. You want to like strike outside of some off law office building, something that puts actual laws into place. What is the NBA speaking out against it? Like that doesn't help and change anything meaningful. It just seems
I
fake.
can I
Okay,
can
you
answer
answer
that.
it.
I can answer that. So this may seem counterintuitive, and you guys are gonna yell at me, but I want you to cast your mind back to the 1800s when slavery was still a thing, right?
Mm, man, okay, I am
Okay,
there.
Don't sound too
now
excited, Alex.
now think if a company said we don't support slavery, it's the equivalent of what we're talking about now with we don't support racism and stuff like that. It's not it sounds crazy because we're talking about, well, no, slavery is clearly bad. Meanwhile, these are not really issues. But my point here is that when you take a stand or when you have people companies take those stands, it lets those who are on the other side of history understand where are in the grand scheme of things. Because right now, the prevailing argument is, oh, no one really cares about all this. No one really cares about stuff like this, or no one isn't really going to be saying anything. I'm gonna go like they people rather just remain either ignorant or hope that everyone else remains ignorant, just so that evil can prevail. But when you are reminded at every point in turn that stuff like this happens and it occurs, and you as an individual should be doing something about it, you should be calling your Congress people and telling them to be doing something about it. It brings it to your forefront in your mind. Like think about uh gay people, right? Gay people have
I'm
existed.
thinking about them.
Fucking God. Gay people have existed for centuries, uh, at least since Spartan times, right? But all of a sudden got rights, not because um now all of a sudden we are now smarter and better as a society, but because we were constantly reminded, hey, we should be giving gay people the same amount of rights as a heterosexual couple. And because companies said, hey, we stand with gay people and stuff like that, it pressured everyone to go like, we need to do something now. And
Okay,
that's
so you
why.
you think, for instance, gay people having rights, like gay people being allowed to marry each other. Do you think that corporations and companies that have advocated for that played a big role in influencing that change?
Think about technology. When you're old and you see a new piece of technology, you're like, well, what is this? Why do we need this? This is preposterous. I don't understand why we would ever need this. And then meanwhile, the young generation is like, oh, this is cool. This is fun. I wonder what we could do with this. And the really, really young generation are like, oh, there was a time before this. That's how rights are also like. When the more you bring to the forefront and to the foremind, the younger generation will be like, "Oh, well, this has always been a thing."
Right.
Like
So your answer to that. Okay,
we
continue.
can't possibly think of a world where black people would have to go to a different school than everyone else, or a world where women don't have the right to vote, or a world where, or at least I can't remember a world where now gay people weren't allowed to marry. But that was a reality at one point. But the more education you bring to the younger generation, the more they're willing to accept these new quote unquote radical ideas.
Right. So you're saying that companies did play a big role in influencing that change, right?
Society in general plays a big role in bringing about change, and whether or not you like it or not, companies are part of that society.
Okay.
So them
So
taking a stand helps influence the education. Like for example, Cartoon Network showed a very progressive TV show called Steven Universe, where most of the main female cast, were lesbians, right? And so it just normalized what a lesbian is in the mind of a child. And they don't go like, oh, why are two women getting married? They're like, oh, two women are getting married. That's sort of just like my cartoon that I just watched 5 seconds ago.
yes. Okay. So if we're going under the assumption then that companies play a big role in influencing change, and we're also going under the assumption that half or slightly less than half of Americans lean right, why is and why are CEOs that lean right not pushing their right leaning beliefs if it truly does make a difference?
The 2008 financial crisis.
What?
So after the 2008 financial
You
crisis,
Moose does that
and
all the time. He just says something random that has seemingly nothing to do with it, and then you're waiting for me to say, "What the fuck are you talking about, Moose?"
because it's like a mic drop moment, you know? Um, but after the 2008 financial crisis, many people on it was like a battle between Main Street versus Wall Street, and people talking about how these big corporations don't really care about the little guy and people in general and society in general. And so, in order to do that, in order to rehabilitate the image of Wall Street, many big corporations decided to take on the agenda of ESG, and something I talked about earlier: environmental, social, and governmental policies. Part of that is diversity, equity, inclusion. Part of that is climate action and climate plans, allowing people to express their faith and stuff like that within the workspace in an appropriate manner, just stuff like that. Um, and so the reason that it goes back to companies taking more left leaning standpoint is diversity and inclusion has been the devil for Republicans, basically, for right leaning people, because of the fact that because simply the fact that they are conservatives, they are not going to be as willing to change. They're not going to be happy to change, basically. And so to say, oh, diversity, equity, inclusion is going to involve right leaning, it's sort of impossible to do that. And so because they are now because companies are now taking on an ESG model because of diversity, equity, inclusion, that's why you see more left leaning than right leaning, because they want to rehabilitate themselves as people of Main Street rather than
Right.
people of
Another
Wall
way of
Street.
saying that is they're being fake.
You
I don't
could
know why
say
we have
that.
to make it so hard. I didn't. Moose is trying to hit the word requirement. I don't know why it has to be so damn long. It's literally just the basic fact that the left side appeals to human rights, and then the right side appeals to the rights of like they like freedom, but they're willing to sacrifice freedom or human rights for freedom. So like the human right to live is uh contradicted by the freedom for people to bear arms, and that's like a known conflict, right? But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, human rights is obviously going to be a more favored thing. So like the everything that the left like agrees with is all about human rights, right? That's like like abortion, their stance on abortion, uh gay rights,
Hmm.
diversity, equity, inclusion, all that stuff has to do with human rights. And let's be honest, bro. I don't think a lot of like we say right leaning, but I'm pretty sure people on the right, like I don't think I would think like at least 15% of the right agrees with the fact that like or aren't like diehard fucking racists like, oh, we don't want black people working at our companies. We don't want any people of color
Yeah.
working at companies.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
Al,
same
you're
thing with like gay people. So I just think that in reality, even though the split is 45, 40, 15, like 45 left, 40 right, and then 15 don't know and they're just watching. I think it's more like you just got to split it up as like 60% of the people are left leaning and or left leaning or they just care about human rights, and then the rest of the 40% are kind of just in a different category that I don't want to put a title on because I don't really know the best way to title it. But then that's a
yeah.
pretty big majority.
Yeah, so Al, you're under the assumption, like, because the way I put it, the political typology, it doesn't really give whether or not someone is right leaning for fiscal reasons or right leaning because of
Yeah, yeah,
societal
that's what
reasons.
I was trying to
Like,
basically say.
yeah,
That's what I
because
was,
like Caitlyn Jenner, a very famous trans woman, she's a
right.
Republican, but she has said on records that she does not support Donald Trump, and she has said on record that she is right for the financial and fiscal reasons, but she is left for
Social.
societal reasons.
Yeah.
So to say, oh, the societal reasons, which most people agree on, is the only thought that's being represented in the country, it's a little bit disingenuous to say that, to the least. Um, just simply due to the fact that most people either don't care or agree with the opinions that the companies are offering. Like it's not like most people the most what people complain about is that's disingenuous, but they don't complain about, oh, where's the right leaning stuff? Like there's one company I can think of and you were gonna talk about it, so
Yes. So, well, I was gonna say, Chick-fil-A. I'm trying to think of another right-leaning company, but that's literally the only company I can think of that's right leaning, and they're only right leaning in that one social aspect. They obviously haven't made statements on the fiscal points of the government, but they made one point of them donating to a homophobic charity, I believe, and that sparks a lot of outrage in the community, and a lot of people canceled Chick-fil-A, quote unquote, but they're still doing just as well as always.
I mean, for Chick-fil-A, right? Like, I really don't see the benefit. Like, them donating. I don't know about this donating thing. Like, I'm just going off what you just said. But
Hmm.
them donating, what does that do for them? That literally does nothing for them. So honestly, that is just like that is literally like doubling down like 5 times saying we don't support gay people.
What do you mean
'Cause
it doesn't do anything for them? Like, what do you mean by that? It doesn't help their image,
It
it
doesn't help
no,
their
like,
image. They're not
it
creating
hurts
profit.
their
They're not
image.
doing anything.
Yeah, it doesn't, like it doesn't benefit them in the least bit, like, there's a difference, like, say this, right? Let's say I'm Chick-fil-A and I donate to this political candidate who has a history of, like, having anti-gay, like, sentiments to him, right?
hmm
And then there's a difference between that even and just straight up donating to, like, an anti-gay charity. Like, there is no other reason you would do that other than to, like, pour
Yeah.
put salt
Well,
in the wound of, like, saying, "We don't like gay people," like, we're gonna give money to
but
people that are actively against gay people.
there's no monetary reason, for instance, why the NFL is putting end racism on their end zones.
Alex,
It's
that's what
not
I was
help.
trying to explain to you earlier, that the NFL and sports leagues are driven by their stars. And if all your stars are your players and your players fit the demographic that are affected by the things that they're protesting against, such as racism, most of the NFL is black. They obviously feel a certain type of way when they see another black person is killed by an act of racism. They're going to feel strongly about it. And then if they feel strongly about it and they are such a big part of the league, then is it really the league that's making a stance, or is it the players? If the players are already such a, like, it's not like the owners are making
Mm,
the stance because the
yeah.
players make up such a big part of the league. Like,
Right. So
bro,
you're saying if the
80%
players
of,
hadn't
yeah,
been like as angry about it, or they didn't
yeah,
have some like threaten to not play at all, then the
no,
NFL
yeah.
wouldn't have done
If the
anything.
league was fucking white, then they're not making that end racism banner
Yeah.
at the end, even if everything still happens. But since the league is
If
so driven by, like, bro, think about all the stars in the NFL. Like, yeah, there's a lot of white guys, but then you think about, like, the biggest star in the league right now, Patrick Mahomes, he's a black guy. He's a light skin. He sounds like Kermit the Frog, but he's a black guy. There's a bunch of black guys in the fucking NFL. Like,
yeah,
that's how the league is.
like if the MLB, and I don't really know much about that, they're majority white, right? Or at least
MLB is
Hispanic.
majority white and Hispanics, like a lot of Hispanics. Like,
Yeah, so if they all of a sudden decided that all of their fields are gonna say Black Lives Matter, that would be nice. It's cool, and you can tell that they maybe probably care about that, but
Maybe.
it's not affecting anything. Like none of the fans care, none of the players care. So they're just doing it for the simple fact of their want to do it.
Or their public image.
but they didn't do it though. Not
Yeah,
to my
yeah,
knowledge.
they
That I
didn't.
know.
Right. So then it's that only but I mean the NFL is one example where the majority of players are black, but like COD, for instance, you can't tell the demographics of players. What I'm saying is that a lot of the times companies just do it just to follow what everybody else is doing,
I
and
mean,
not that
COD,
it's
I
actually
think, is a
genuine.
good example of a company that I actually would believe pandered, because of just the history of COD. COD is actually known for racism on the
Well,
game. Obviously,
yeah,
it's
so
not
that
like
might
it's
be
not
the
the
reason that they
racism
do it.
of the company, but it's the racism of the players. But also, I think it's just like I like Moose was saying, like, is that effort even like is that a bad thing? Like if they want to do that, even if it is for like
It's
their
not a
own
bad thing if it's
survival, but
genuine, but if it's not genuine,
Then
it's
is it still a bad thing? Like, does it
if it
matter? Like,
yes.
does it? Imagine you're giving money to charity. Like, two people decide to give money to charity. One person decides that they wanted to make money off of that fact that they're giving money to charity and are filming themselves giving money to charity. Meanwhile, the other person is just giving money to charity because they're giving money to charity. Does the impact that they have affect is that affected by their intentions behind it? Because either way, the charity gets money.
Yeah, the charity gets the money, and I agree that the impact is the same. But aren't you side eyeing the guy who recorded his contribution a little more? Aren't you looking at him as a little more fake?
We
Or don't you?
talked about this on the very first episode of this podcast. It's better than doing nothing. I am side eyeing all the people who aren't doing anything.
I think
So
as
you
you said,
prefer
like
that a corporation has some political view rather than having none?
This may just be me, and I understand that it may just be me, but I do base a large portion of my opinion on someone based off of their political view. Just simply due to the fact of how far reaching someone's political view is into how that person is, you know? Um, and so if a company takes a stand, sure, I can think that they're being disingenuous, or I can choose to believe that they are doing what they're saying they're doing, and especially if they give money to the cause that they're talking about, then I have zero issues than giving my business to that person. But if I know a company is actively going against my own personal beliefs, then it's sort of hard for me to give my money and my business to them.
Okay,
Like, I
what if a
don't like
company
using
was complete?
Amazon.
Yeah, but what if a company was completely neutral and they have not said anything about whether they're left or right? Wouldn't you still continue to use them or continue to buy from them?
Depends.
Really? You really base their company's political beliefs? Like that's a factor in considering whether or not you're going to buy from them?
For me, yes.
bro, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck.
Like, I wouldn't like my pillow could be as comfortable as it can be. I'm never gonna buy a pillow from my pillow.
Why?
From what?
The
My
My
Pillow?
Pillow company? Yeah, the My Pillow company.
I don't know that company.
Here, I'll show you guys a picture. Yeah, for those listening, just search up My Pillow.
So you said you don't use Amazon or you wouldn't use Amazon, but you still
I
do
don't
use
like
Amazon.
using Amazon. I don't like using it. My sisters use it. So that makes
Are
me.
you side-eyeing your sisters?
I've told them that I don't understand why you get groceries from Amazon.
Do you think you not contributing to Amazon is affecting them in any way?
No, I don't think it's affecting them at all.
So what's the point?
Is the only point to do something is ever if it only makes an impact? Because then by that logic, why do anything ever? If why would anyone ever decide to take any action to make any sort of change if they know that their individual impact is not going to affect anything?
Okay, I mean, I don't completely disagree with that because I agree that people should vote, and even though their one vote may not make a difference in the election, that they should still vote. So I can agree with that.
Bro, who cares, man? Who cares about my pillow, bro?
Does seem like a pretty fluffy, nice pillow.
He's not a quality guy.
Why? Because he's shaking Donald Trump's hand?
He supported. He was anti-vax, anti-mask, and said that Donald Trump won the election in 2020.
What does that have to do with the pillow?
It has nothing to do with pillow. It has something to do with company. I would never buy my pillow.
God, you're so dramatic, bro.
He's the
You
fucking
buy you
CEO of the company.
buy from fucking Nike, they make their shit from sweatshops, bro. You have a fucking iPhone. That shit is made in fucking China.
Mm,
Kids' labors went into making your iPhone, but you
mm.
can't see it not in your news, so you don't care. Idiot.
Damn. Now Moose is considering selling his phone.
No, he's not. Moose is just doing it because if he can make a conscious effort to not buy from an idiot like this, and I'm not disagreeing with you that he's an idiot. He's definitely an idiot. But if he can make that conscious effort, then obviously he's going to. But it wouldn't be like that's not a good enough reason for me to not buy something. Those kids in the sweatshops better be working faster because I need a new pair of shoes.
All right, we'll leave it off right there. Thank you
Wait,
so much.
wait. Kids in the sweatshop, don't worry. I'm gonna free you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm coming for the rescue.
Thank you so much for listening to Owl Shake. If you enjoyed, please leave
Nobody enjoyed.
and a like on any platform you're on. I'm not going to list the platforms because you're probably only on Spotify or YouTube. Um, have a
No,
great.
they're on
They could be on
iHeartRadio.
they could be on
iHeartRadio.
Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts is a big platform that
No,
we
it's not.
use.
Nobody listens to that.
iHeartRadio.
You have never taken a look at the analytics. I've given you the login. You don't look at the analytics.
iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio. Please listen on iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
All right. Bye bye.